Cool. All right, we're back.
Yeah, we're
Don't
back
shoot the
again.
messenger, man. Don't shoot the messenger. We're
Don't
back.
shoot the messenger.
Look, I think let's get straight into it.
Cool,
I think for me, the first topic for today we really got to speak about is these Trump accounts.
Yeah.
This is for me. I was extremely excited. I'm not necessarily an avid Trump supporter by any stretch of the imagination, but this particular initiative was a monumental and a super impactful moment for children in the US.
Yeah.
And I think we need to unpack and explore what might it mean as a precedent for creating wealth and generating wealth across generations. And also, what might it mean for the distribution of that value creation as well?
Right.
You know, what's the distribution of all that value that's about to be created by these companies?
Yeah.
How is it going to be distributed in a way that's equitable? So for anyone who doesn't know, let's just call it out and explain what we're actually talking about, right? So these Trump accounts effectively put $1,000 of a share, I think of it as a share certificate that will be invested into US companies over a child's lifetime. So if you think your child's born tomorrow, that £1,000 account, that Trump account is opened in their name and it will invest in American companies. The parents will have the choices to, continue to invest and add more to that account, or they can just leave it. And it does a nice thing of showing the calculations of how that £1,000 will compound and will grow, or $1,000, I should say, will compound and it will grow over 10, 15, 18, 30, 50 years. Mm-hmm. And the reason it's such a pivotal moment for me is because it starts to reshape how we think around value creation, right? As a kid or a newborn, you're probably not thinking about what stocks and shares you're going to be investing in. But what it does is it massively accelerates and pulls forward that conversation around how can I learn to be financially literate? How can I learn to grow and invest and build from a young age? In the UK, we have these PSE classes, or, we have these kind of, we spend a lot of time on things that aren't especially useful later down the line. Here we have practical value that is given to a child, an opportunity that is given to a child and to families at a pivotal point in their, in their journey. Yeah, and hopefully they can do that to create more wealth, create more opportunities for others. So I was a huge advocate of it, although, it might not be from the best messenger, but I was a huge advocate and supporter of it. Yeah. And I think that the conversation, right, it's obvious, right? This is a good thing, and it's hard to, it's hard to criticize this. This is something that is unanimously viewed, from what I can see, as something that's going to be positive. I think there's a couple of points that need to be discussed. There are a couple of points of contention for me. I think the first is, what was the catalyst that made now the time that we're going to do this? There's a few different things that are pretty unprecedented throughout history globally that are happening right now. The most obvious one for me is I look at Anthropic and I look at OpenAI and I see companies that are going from $0 to $1 trillion in valuation in just over 3 years. Unprecedented value creation. This has never happened before. So I look at it and you start to see people clamoring around all of a sudden to say, these guys are growing so quickly. Who's going to share the pie? Who's going to share the wealth? Look at the inequality in the country, and these guys are just becoming billionaires overnight. And so I think for me, the first question for me, and I'm interested to get your opinion on this for real, is why is it that OpenAI and Anthropic are being held to a completely different standard to your Googles, your Microsofts, your Amazon, your Meta? Where's that pressure coming from?
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. I think it is the image that it gave off, and I think when initially the whole AI training thing started and like ChatGPT got launched, the impression that people have had is that they have done a lot of like taking intellectual property from the internet. Like they've basically trained data on the whole internet, and they've taken public data and now they are profiting off it. And it is true that they're not the only ones. Like Google is doing the same, Meta is trying to do the same, and they are trying to do the same. But I feel like it's just the image, because people are saying Google as, okay, they're a company that does this. Like they do other things, they search, they've got lots of like free services, and they're doing all these things. So I think it's easier to just look at these guys. Okay, these ones are the ones that started it. Like this 2 new guys on the block, and and you can also see how massive they've gotten like over the last 3 years. Like it's just not something people have seen before. So if Google is already making like a couple $100 billion in revenue, and they added a couple more with AI, you don't really see it as well. Yeah, cool. But when someone goes from reaching $1 trillion, so you're like, watch that guy. Like, so I think it's just a psychological thing that people feel like these new guys on the block, they have suddenly taken so much wealth from seemingly nowhere. And to be fair, truthfully, a lot of the things they've gotten, I wouldn't say stole. But
Whoa!
I wouldn't say stole, but
Time out.
but if you ask creatives, you ask people who write, you ask people who have their blogs out, they're gonna tell you that's how they feel. Like they just got their property taken without anyone really like compensating them for it. So I feel like that's one of the reasons people have that impression. They're like, yeah, like this needs to come back somehow. And then to be fair, you also come to the conversation around they're taking all the water on the planet, and the amount of resources they use. That it just requires a lot of resources. Like, so I feel like people feel like this needs to come back in some way or the other. That's what I feel is the reason they might be treated a bit differently.
I'm actually going to come back on that water point. I did a little bit of research.
Oh,
yeah, I did a little bit of research, and it's not quite all as it seems. Let's put it that way.
That's interesting.
But no, I think you raised a poignant point there. I think when I look at Google or a Meta or an Amazon, I started to just chart their history in a little bit more detail this week. And you think you're looking at a Google, you're taking 20 or so years to get to $1 trillion valuation. Most of that as a public company. Yeah. You're looking at a Meta, it's quicker. So, you're looking at kind of 10, 11-ish years to get to $1 trillion valuation. Again, a lot of that as a public company where the perception is that the public can invest as retail investors and share some of that growth. I think, again, one of the big differences for Anthropic and OpenAI, aside from the absolutely unprecedented growth rate, so to get to $1 trillion in 3 years, I think it's hard for people to fathom. It's hard to understand and believe. And I think the separate point to that is that a lot of that has been done privately.
True.
So the public, because they haven't gone public yet, all that value creation has accrued to the founders and their early investors.
True.
And so there's a feeling that the public is really not getting they're not getting any of this slice or any of this benefit.
Yeah, sure.
The point around the data collection, again, is this any different to what Google have been doing over the decades? Is it even Meta, arguably even more sensitive information because you're now looking at people's personal information with Meta.
Sure.
So Meta to an even greater extent.
Yeah.
But I guess what you could look at is you could look at the whole Cambridge Analytica situation with Meta and you could say they had their period of scrutiny on how that data is used as well. So I think a lot of them are effectively looking at it and saying, okay, now it's your turn. You'll see what happens when you get too big for your boots. That's how I see it. They're looking at them and saying, okay, you wanna do this, you wanna be big global trillionaires, you're still gonna have to play by the rules, the young buck. And it brings us on nicely to the concept of the US government taking a stake in OpenAI. So Sam Altman was on over the last couple of weeks talking about how it's likely or possible that the US government will get a 5% stake in OpenAI. And I'm going to be honest, my initial reaction to that is that feels quite anti-American to me. This is supposed to be the king of the free market in the capitalist world. So why is it that now, again, you've got this massively fast-growing, monstrously fast-growing company that there's a little bit of this what feels outside pressure for them to give to the government or to people. That capitalist, DNA of the country appears to be, kind of, or it appears to be faltering when it's applied to OpenAI and Anthropic. Yeah. So what did you think when you saw that?
Yeah, so honestly, I feel like the government has felt like they need to do something about it, and because AI has just been different from any other technological advancement that we've had. It's not just like some cloud service or some spreadsheets or something. This is really like potentially automating almost everything we do or at least that's the goal.
Mm.
And I feel like there's also a lot of security concerns with that. And that's why the government has started to really look into it and say, okay, we need to make sure that you don't control everything. And even applications in war and stuff like that, the whole problem they had with the government, with Trump clamping down on mythos and watering it down.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
So I feel like, in fact, from what I heard, it was actually OpenAI themselves that went to the government and said, you know what, we don't want you guys on our asses. We know we control a lot right now. We're just going to give you some stake. And it's just in a way for the government to feel like these private individuals cannot decide to just do things on their own, and we're forced to be aligned. So that way the government also has a stake in this. The government is incentivized to make sure it works as it should, and the sector keeps booming. And also the government can look into and say, okay, we need you to do this way, we need you to do this that way. So I think it makes sense because it seems like the most beneficial way. And in a way, I think it also answers the question of them also giving back in a way. Because now they're giving to the government. It's not directly to the people, but in a way, the government is still controlled by the people, or at least should be. So it also is them should be. so indirectly, it's also a way for them to give back to the people, being the government right now, and it also in a way also answers the previous question as well. So yeah, I think I'm in support. I think I'm in support.
I do. Speaking about the sequence of events of the hyperscalers and the sequence of events that has led to OpenAI potentially or allegedly making this offer to the government. You did raise a good point there around what were some of the prerequisites. So when Anthropic had this conversation with the Department of War and they apparently walked away from $100 to $200 billion deal over the way that the US government or the Department of War was proposing to use its capabilities. I think there was two use cases that Anthropic effectively said you're not allowed to use our models for. One was mass surveillance and one was effectively autonomous killing. So
they needed
indiscriminately
they want a human to give the final go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And however you want to slice it, however you want to look at it, for me, when they walked away from that contract, it did create a fracture with the government relationship. And I don't think it was a coincidence that a few months later, when they're releasing this all-powerful mythos and fable model, that the government is saying, right, you didn't want to play ball with us a few months ago, and you think we're just going to let you, as a private company, release this, by your own words, some sort of weapon of mass destruction out on the people without running through our process first. Forget it. And this is where we get to something interesting. And this is why I think these conversations are going to be a bit different to some of the ones we've had before, because we're elevating a little bit now in terms of the sphere of influence, right? It's not just a AI or LLM or kind of tech capability. Now you're talking about matters of national security. So they're looking at what Anthropic can do, and they're saying, this isn't just a chatbot anymore, guys. This is potentially a weapon of mass destruction. So whether you like it or not, you're going to have to go through our regulations if you even want to think about releasing that model to the public and having foreign entities having access to that mododel. So forget it, play ball or it's not happening. And I think they did. I think they brought them back to the table and he said, come here, young man. He said, this is how it's going to go if you want to play by the, house rules. And so, I agree. I think OpenAI saw that whole sequence of events. Apparently, they did go in and get at least a slice of that Department of War contract, by the way. So I think they saw that whole sequence of events and thought,
I can't be asked to do all of this.
Yeah, and it could actually be a competitive advantage for us versus Anthropic if we have a better relationship with the government. Because if we can establish that and we can bring our models to market quicker. Everyone knows in this frontier model game how fast you bring that new advanced developed capability to market is that's margin and revenue, and it's how quick you grow. It really is. From everything we can see, that's how highly correlated those things are. So if it ended up feeling like a no-brainer, your initial reaction is, this isn't normally what Americans would do. you know, this ain't normally what they would do. But then you look at it again and you think, yeah, maybe it makes sense.
Yeah. And to be fair, is as much as I think it's just a lot more obvious now. More recently, there have been more moves like this where the government is saying they want. I think it's just been a lot more with the current administration. But I know they had stake in Intel to make sure Intel didn't crash. They've been doing a lot more supporting the tech industry here and there, and they're trying to really focus on the current, obviously because of Taiwan, they want to make sure their own semiconductor industry booms as well. So the government has been trying to invest in so many companies right now. So I think this is just the new way it's going to be in America. Like the government gets very heavily involved in any new disrupting technology, and they want to steer the ship.
Yeah, I think at your peril though, you got to be careful. I think what I hope is they don't lose the essence of being a free market economy, and I don't think that's a massive risk based on everything that I know about the history of the country.
Yeah.
What I'd hope is that we see caps and limits to the amount of equity these governments are going to take in these businesses. 5, potentially even 10% feels sensible to me as a maximum, as a cap.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then I think you get the good blend of having the right regulatory, scrutiny so that they can be deployed safely, but almost more importantly, having the speed to market.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that's probably slightly underappreciated is, let's take that Fable release where, he went into folklore with how powerful it was, right? If we are to believe that it can do, what he has positioned to the market that it can do, holding it back from the market and allowing, a country like China or potentially what could be seen as an adversary to develop a model of a similar capability and bring that into market first, again, that's a national security threat.
Sure.
So it starts to get quite serious, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
So I think you get to a good place, and I think you get to a good blend. So look, I think that's my take. Seems like we're broadly aligned on that one. So let's close it there for OpenAI. But again, I think what's the takeaway? I think one, as much as it might pain me to say it, shout out to Trump for the Trump accounts. I think that's a fantastic initiative. 2, we're probably getting to the right balance of public ownership in these, essentially society-defining companies. And 3, stop hating on Anthropic. Let the kid live.
Leave them alone.
Let the kid live.